One night, a shopkeeper was getting ready to close the store, cleaning up while listening to his favorite music. Suddenly, a woman approached and insisted that the store be reopened as if she had an urgent need. However, the man firmly refused because he was tired and needed rest. Feeling confused, the woman hurried to a nearby payphone and called 911, reporting that everything had been taken. Then, something strange happened to the woman, and the shopkeeper, upon checking, was shocked to find the payphone had disappeared. The next morning, a sheriff named Murphy visited the store because the shopkeeper had reported the incident. According to Deputy Mitchell, the shopkeeper seemed to be hallucinating, speaking of unclear things like a light from the sky that sucked up both the woman and the payphone. Is this true? And what actually happened? The scene shifts to a city where a young couple is preparing for a trip. A girl named April had been busy with her divorced parents since morning. Her mother had decided to sell a memory-filled cabin in a remote location and asked April to handle all the paperwork. Meanwhile, her father asked April to pick up some valuable items, including his beloved rifle. April didn't mind because it meant she could also have a weekend getaway to relieve the stress of city life. To her surprise, her boyfriend Kyle had, without her knowledge, invited some friends, including Seth, an annoying guy full of chatter. The scene then shifts to a later time when, after a long journey, the group enters a small town. Seth did something crazy, earning them a stern warning from Sheriff Murphy. The sheriff explained several unresolved cases, including the disappearance of some people and the killing of livestock. He warned them to be cautious and hoped their arrival wouldn't cause more problems, otherwise they would all be expelled. The scene shifts to Murphy meeting with a local farmer who discovered one of his livestock dead, presumably from a wild dog attack. However, Murphy disagrees because the wounds on the animal were too precise, as if planned, matching those in other livestock killings. The story returns to April and her friends, who finally arrive at the cabin. After a brief moment of nostalgia, they waste no time in throwing a party where everyone enjoys themselves and drinks. A few hours later, April goes for a walk with Mel, an old friend, and her dog Rusty. While chatting and taking in the scenery, Rusty suddenly barks and runs into the bushes as if chasing something. The girls are forced to follow him, leading them to a fenced property with no trespassing signs and a creepy scarecrow. Despite the warnings, they recklessly enter. As they look around, they discover several tents with marijuana plants which excite Mel so much that she plans to steal some. However, they are unaware that someone is behind them. April quickly explains their intentions and origins, mentioning the cabin, which prompts the mysterious man to remove his mask. He reveals himself as Travis, a friend of April's father and a former US soldier who served in Vietnam. Travis shares stories about his PTSD from the war and conspiracy theories, including photos of mysterious flying objects captured by special cameras. He theorizes that these are secret military aircraft and that the army used certain areas for testing during the Cold War. Deeply believing in these conspiracies, Travis lives off the grid to avoid surveillance. The girls are mostly stunned and occasionally respond, not fully convinced. Despite everything, Mel is eager to make a deal to get some marijuana leaves for their party that night. Upon returning to the cabin, they share the marijuana plants and everyone starts having fun. Suddenly, Kyle takes April to another room for a private talk, which turns out to be a proposal. Kyle sincerely expresses his feelings and desires to spend the rest of his life with April. Unfortunately, April cannot accept the proposal. She explains her theories about loneliness in the universe and eventually reveals that she has secured a job in New York and plans to end her relationship with Kyle. Deeply disappointed, Kyle leaves the room while their friends, unaware of the situation, continue celebrating. Once they realize what happened, they gather to support Kyle. Meanwhile, at the police station, Sheriff Murphy reviews surveillance footage from the gas station. The video shows the payphone booth disappearing in a flash of light, with something mysterious visible behind the light. As the night progresses, with no signal and no television, the board group decides to have fun again. Kyle attempts to talk to April to mend their relationship, but their conversation is interrupted by a giant fireball streaking across the sky and crashing into the forest, causing an explosion. Seth records everything, and the group goes to investigate, thinking it might be a plane. However, they discover not an ordinary plane, but a spaceship with mysterious footprints suggesting creatures are roaming the forest. Terrified, the group rushes back to the cabin to discuss their next steps. Reporting to the police is one option, but Seth argues that the authorities won't believe them. Eventually, they decide escaping back to the town is their only solution. As they prepare to leave, a sudden power outage occurs, and they agree to check the electrical system in the basement. Suddenly, they hear Rusty barking and a strange noise. April remembers her father's gun and retrieves it for protection. When they return upstairs, they find many items damaged and are suddenly confronted by a mysterious creature.
You see anything out there?
It's definitely gone now.
The young group quickly rushed outside to see the mysterious creature that had fallen into the pond and was slowly sinking. This time they didn't hesitate, and all hurried to the car, speeding away to escape. However, just a few minutes later, they were shocked to find a tree blocking the only road to town. Upon inspection, they realized the tree had been cut down, not felled by a storm or lightning. They noticed something strange about the rain. Where they stood, it was light, but behind them, it was pouring heavily. At the same moment, a mysterious light began to shine, causing panic. Strangely, in the midst of the chaos, Lex seemed hypnotized and stepped out of the car to gaze at the red light. Still terrified, the group fled into the forest. Meanwhile, Murphy continued his investigation and discovered a chaotic van in the forest. With no response from anyone, he entered the van and found a camera on the floor. Watching the last recording, he saw a family enjoying a vacation until they noticed a light in the sky. The family's child approached the light and suddenly vanished. After viewing the footage, Murphy continued his investigation and found blood in the bathroom. A woman then emerged from hiding, identified as the mother from the video. She explained that the mysterious creatures had abducted her husband and child for experiments to learn everything about humans. The sheriff called for an ambulance, and before being taken away, the woman begged Murphy to do something to save them, as many humans had been captured by the spaceship, and some might have been trapped there for years. Back with April's group, they reached Travis's farm, where they had to calm him down as he mistook them for intruders. After explaining everything and proving it with video footage, Travis revealed that the government had made a pact with the aliens since President Roosevelt's era. In this agreement, aliens were allowed to abduct humans for experimentation, and in return, humans could continue to pretend they ruled Earth. A crucial rule was never to interact with the aliens, a rule April unknowingly broke by shooting one of them. At that moment, Mel noticed something detected on Travis's radar, confirming it was an alien spacecraft. The craft quickly became undetectable, indicating the aliens had landed. Suddenly, the power went out again, prompting everyone to flee except Travis, who advised April and her friends to return to the cabin while he tried to hold off the aliens and protect his property.
Come in peace, my ass.
The scene then shifted to April's group, who managed to reach the cabin and began securing all doors and windows. Strange noises were heard outside, and when April peeked out, she was startled by an alien at the door. In a panic, Seth started shooting, nearly hitting Murphy and Mitchell, who had arrived at the scene. The officers handcuffed Seth and interrogated April's group. It was hard for them to believe April's story due to the smell of marijuana and alcohol on the young adults. To prove her story, April led the officers to the pond to show them the alien's body, but it was mysteriously gone. Strange noises were heard again, prompting Murphy to investigate alone. He found a strange, sticky substance and Rusty's dead body in a horrific state. Something startled Murphy, But instead of chasing it, he decided to return to the car, informing Mitchell that April's group was telling the truth and that this might be what happened to his wife. However, Mitchell laughed as everyone believed Murphy's wife had run off with another man, not been abducted by aliens. As they prepared to leave, they were suddenly confronted by an alien. After being brought back to the cabin by April, Seth explained that the aliens had controlled Murphy to kill Mitchell and himself. Panicking again, Seth attacked Kyle with the police gun, blamed April for everything, and decided to escape alone, leaving the group behind. Moments later, a tremor followed by light signaled the arrival of the alien spacecraft, and the aliens began making a highly disturbing noise. April and Mel ran to the basement for shelter, but Kyle chose to stay behind, closing the door tightly, declaring he would hold off the aliens to prove his love for April. Meanwhile, Seth was shown running through the forest, using a light stick to illuminate his path. Strange noises terrified him, causing him to fire shots wildly, but then an alien suddenly attacked. Although he managed to escape by crawling and even handcuffing himself to avoid abduction, the alien spacecraft still sucked him up. Back at the cabin, Kyle was prepared with a knife waiting in the bathroom. Unfortunately, the aliens outsmarted him and quickly abducted him. Simultaneously, in the basement, the terrified girls suddenly saw an empty pill bottle drop from Mel's hand, indicating she had ended her life. After reminiscing about happy memories, Mel took her last breath. The loss of her best friend devastated April, who decided to fight back. Armed with a crowbar, she went upstairs, and suddenly the mysterious light vanished and the power returned. April then checked the surroundings, eventually finding blood on the floor and the ring Kyle had intended to give her. Realizing Kyle had been abducted, April desperately ran outside and saw the alien spacecraft leaving. She grabbed some fireworks and began firing them until the alien ship returned. Sometime later, April awoke to find herself inside a disgusting cocoon. After a fierce struggle, she managed to free herself and began walking down a corridor. She encountered other bodies and moved towards a very bright light, which turned out to be the end of the corridor. She finally realized she was inside an alien mothership. Meanwhile, Seth woke up in another room, shocked to discover his hand was missing. Suddenly, a machine appeared and started conducting various extreme experiments, beginning with inserting insects into Seth's body. Back to April, she continued walking through the corridors until she found Kyle. She freed him and administered CPR, apologizing for rejecting his proposal. Fortunately, Kyle was saved, and they embraced each other, unaware that the aliens were watching them. A light suddenly shone on them, making the couple think these might be their final moments. Suddenly, they both woke up in the middle of the forest, extremely grateful to be alive despite mourning their fallen friends. Seeing soldiers preparing nearby, their gratitude seemed to double, but unexpectedly, the soldiers started shooting at them. The film ended with April trying to give Kyle the ring, and Kyle attempting to put it on April's finger, before the soldiers shot them again, throwing their bodies into a pit and burning them to ensure they completely vanished without any media attention. Was this the end of the research, or did the aliens and government have other plans? And that's it for the story series of this film. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to support this channel by subscribe, like and share. See you in the next video. Goodbye.